Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports, brought to you by Scotty's Pub, located at 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Citywide glass, 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth, 2 additional locations in Fall River and Taunton, and Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street, Lakeville, Massachusetts. In fact, you can see Chris's shirt right there, where they have tennis and pickleball, absolutely, and a whole lot more too. So welcome in, and I guess we're going to start today. First of all, thank you for those sponsors. And second of all, when it comes to starting today, we got to start with the Green Teamers and the Boston Celtics. What is going on with these guys? You know, I put this thing about Jekyll and Hyde, a little bit of an exaggeration, but, you know, some days you think, well, maybe they don't quite have what it takes to take you to the promised land. And then the next day you're like, wow, this team is nasty. They're coming into their own. Just like Danny Ainge predicted, have some patience. They're getting there. They're getting there. You know, and now they're coming into their own. Oh, they were just hitting everything 9 for 11. In the first quarter the other night from three-point land, and they just blew the doors right off of Miami. Who are the real Celtics, Chris Santos?
Well, game one, obviously you would have thought it was going to be maybe a tough evening. 2 of your 5 starters were not playing in Marcus Smart and Al Horford. Celtics got off to a tremendous first half. I thought they played some really good basketball in that first half, Paul. Time Lord came in. Yeah, he looked a little tired toward the end of the half. Hasn't played much, so trying to get his legs back. And practice game legs compared to real game-like situation is obviously always different. But not having Smart and Horford, 2 of your 5 starters, really got to the Celtics in the second half. And obviously in that third quarter, Tatum and Brown both took it seriously and said, that falls on us, that third quarter. They were called out by Udoka, said we need team leadership during that time. And Tatum said, yep, you're right. We need to be better. We need to get our guys that are playing in the starting 5 in that second half back to Celtic basketball. They didn't do it. They got out hustled. They got out physical, lost that game, even though they played better in the fourth quarter. Come to game 2, now they got Horford back. They get Smart back. Smart all along. Horford was a game-time decision. Nice to see him get in. Then the rotation just looked like it was flowing the best that it has, and especially against Jimmy Butler, kind of calmed him down. Let's remember, too, Paul, Miami's without one of their best players in Kevin Lowry. That's a good ball player. And, not having him kind of puts a lot more pressure on Jimmy Butler. But on paper, this is a good Celtics team, and I think it's a good matchup in the depth department. As long as they stay physical on the glass with Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Horford, and Tice, I think they can compete with this team. No problem. I like the way they're playing right now. Let's get some home cooking. Let's get into game 3 and game 4. Take both of them, get up 3-1, going back to Miami.
Well, injuries are part of the game, as you said, and it's no question about the fact that you can benefit or you can be hurt by injuries or hurt by somebody being out of the lineup. You mentioned Horford and Smart. Horford out for the medical protocols and Smart out with the minor injury, but is now back. Obviously, Rob Williams had been out earlier for the Celtics. But then you look at that series against Milwaukee, and they were missing Middleton, right? So if you're a Milwaukee fan, you can say, hey, we were missing a big piece too. Yep. So the Celtics have benefited sometimes from that, have been hurt sometimes by that. But, it does seem like they have been inconsistent. Not so much lately, though. Not so much lately. They're much more consistent, playing hard defense. The teams really, really come together. And, not to go back and rehash that whole thing, but what a difference from the first 3 months of the year. They were talking about blowing the thing up. And then when you look at it now, you think to yourself, how could anybody have thought that we should blow this thing up? I mean, but again, you have to go back at how it was at that time. Things were not working at all at the time. And now Brown and Tatum, they're moving the ball all around. Marcus Smart moving all the ball around. Guys coming off the bench like Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard and Time Lord in there doing what he needs to do. And when everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and when everybody's embracing the role that they're supposed to embrace, Celtics are tough to beat.
Well, at the beginning of the year, Paul, everybody wants instant success.
Remember, right.
You got a brand new coach. You got a brand new system. You got some brand new ball players. And you're going to go through those times where it's a rough patch and a rough stretch. And the Celtics did do that. Now, of course, as fans, it's blow the team up. They got nothing. This isn't going to work. Well, they've turned it around. They showed everybody, hey, we are a team. we're going to put this together, added some more pieces come trade and free agency, did what they needed to do, got guys coming off the bench like Pritchard and Naismith and Williams and Tice, and enough to do the job to say, hey, if one guy goes down, maybe we have a piece to fill. We can still get our rotation and still need to do what we want during the game and win these big games. And I think the Celtics have done that. And since January, they've turned it around. And to me, it's been their defense that has really turned it up. I mean, it has led to great offense. And when the Celtics stand around, that's when they're at their worst. When they are moving, and I mean moving, in the first half of that game one, even without Smart and Horford, they were flying. They were all over the court, defensively and offensively, and they had an 8-point lead. And that's without Smart and Horford. This team can play. They can run. They can transition. They can find the open man. They can get back on D. Just don't get sloppy. Play Celtic basketball. I think Udoka's done a nice job, and they're catching on, and this is why they are where they are right now.
Shout out to Anna Dudley for looking in from Fall River this morning. And if you want to get in on the discussion, Chris and I, as I said in the heading there, we just love talking sports. Love talking sports, not only with each other, but with you too. So give us a shout at 774-762-6234 and jump in here on the conversation. You know, this Celtics team, you were talking about, you know, how things have changed a lot and, you know, everything kind of coming together. Yeah, I'm looking back now, right? And I'm thinking, wow, you know, Danny Ainge practically got run out of town, right? And then when you look at the picks that he made that are on this team that are succeeding, you know, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, of course, the so-called Big Three, Time Lord, Rob Williams really making a big contribution. Then you look at that bench. How about that game where Grant Williams just went off? I mean, people probably would have thought that he was incapable of doing that. Now, the next game, he started out kind of ice cold, but, you know, he's a guy that came right off the bench. And how about Peyton Pritchard, you know, coming in and hitting those threes and with the spotlight on? You know, a lot of times people would say, well, you know, Pritchard, you know, when you put the spotlight on, now all the eyes on you, maybe you haven't got what it's take. I mean, this guy's got some big ones because he'll take that 3-point shot if he's open. He doesn't matter what the situation is. And how about the other night, you and I text back and forth. How about when he hit that deep three? I mean, that three, he took a three that was 3 feet behind the three, and he just took it like, oh, I got the open shot. I'm right here. The guy's over there. I got the shot. Boom, you know. Got some brass ones there, Mr. Santos. He just dropped that baby right in there. And it's wow, if you're getting that kind of play out of Pritchard and you know, Grant Williams, in addition to the starters all playing the role the way they're supposed to play it, whether it's the defense of Marcus Smart facilitating, he almost had a triple-double the other night. So here's a guy that, you know, I don't think you would have seen a lot of this at the beginning of the year where there was a lot more selfish play.
Let's give Udoka tons of credit, Paul. You can only play 5 guys. You have 5 starters. You have a 6-man. Then you have a bench rotation. And, of course, you've talked about when injuries come in, you got to step up, and now you might get into the starting role. But remember, it's guys that could probably start on other teams. That's the key. Would they want to leave and go play for other teams and be starters, or be content to be role players and bench players and work hard and be part of a unit and be part of a team, be successful to try to win a world championship? And this is what Udoka has done well and has presented himself. He's called people out at times when he's need to. I'm sure he's been coddling some the way he's had to, but he's adjusted, and he's adjusted well to every single player on that bench, from White to Naismith, to guys that you sit back and say, why is he even in the game? But he's in the game, and he's making contributions when they are in the game. So I think he's done a great job trying to satisfy, compliment everybody, get it the way they want it, and be a team on the court. If he can continue with that in these 2 games right here, I like him going back to Miami, and I'm hoping either 5 or 6 if they can play just like the first 2 games.
Thank you for your comments. Jason Souza says very simply, go Celtics. And we're all on board with that, making it very, very exciting for us
Yes.
here who are in the New England area, rooting for our teams representing New England from Boston, of course. And what about Danny Ainge? I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Look at all the draft picks, right? Remember how we used to say patience, patience, and we'd be like, we're running out of patience. And, you did allude to it there with, people just like instant gratification and stuff like that. And then they say, yeah, well, these guys are only 22 and 23. And then, well, now they do kind of feel like they're maturing. You're talking about the coach's effect and so forth. Absolutely. But, hey, that whole thing when he got Tatum as the pick number 3, I mean, number 1 and 2, they're not doing anything. So Tatum, he gets at 3. Brown, he got in the first round. Of course, Smart and Rob Williams and Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard off the bench. And then, how about Brad Stevens? Part 2 of the question. How about Brad Stevens? They said, well, he's not really getting through to the players, and that was probably true. Udoka is getting through to the players a lot more, although it did take him a little bit of time to do so. So they were like, what are you going to do with Brad Stevens? Well, they just made him the general manager because they didn't know what to do with him. Well, how about bringing in Horford? What an effect that's been, that sort of calming, very well-respected, kind of soft-spoken, but leads by example player who has given them some big-time contribution, not only that day when he went off from three-point land, but how about the defensive rebounding and the battling inside and really being a leader out there on the court? I mean, that's Brad Stevens. Brought him back, and even Tice, who's going to struggle a little bit in this series, but he's made a contribution too. So a couple of tweaks, bringing White in. I mean, White hasn't hit too many three-pointers, but he's played some good defense along with the whole defensive scheme of the team. So, between, what Ainge did originally to draft this entire group mostly, and what Brad Stevens has now done to bring a few extra parts in, there's a lot of credit to go around here.
Yeah, well, let's start with Danny Ainge. It takes a special eye, Paul, to draft somebody and when to draft them, and, of course, the needs for your team. And Danny, I'm sure, sat back and said, this is Celtics tradition. What kind of ball players have we had in the past? Guys who can obviously score, heart, dedication, determination, offense, defense, whatever it is. So something where him and his staff sat back and said, all right, do I take a chance with this guy? Do I take a chance with this guy? Or do I like Tatum? And then now you sit back, and of course you got to get lucky, because it's not to say that Tatum couldn't have went 1 and 2. Was he going to be sitting there at 3? But I'm sure, you go through all the process that you need to do, and not just Tatum. It involves everybody else. Then it transfers over to the coach. So now Stevens talks with Danny and says, okay, now we have this, we have that. So what do we need to fill the pieces? What do we need to build the chemistry, to be a complete team? We need rebounding. We need a defensive specialist. We need a 6th man. We need depth. We need bench players, role players. We got to have all this to become. That's where Danny and Brad work together. Now, obviously, Danny goes off, and now Brad's got to work with Udoka. And now what Udoka's system is and how he likes to run the show. So now Brad works with him and says, okay, how about if I get you Horford? This can happen with him. We go out and get White. You had him in San Antonio. What'd you think of him there? How is he going to help us? And they do all these things, and they talk about it to develop the team chemistry, and something that the Celtics have had for, as long as we've been born, Paul. That's just Boston Celtics with Red Auerbach running it. They're trying to do the same team concepts, and it's great to see that a team that you thought could be at the bottom of the barrel have worked their way up to right back to elite status again in the NBA.
And you're watching Santos on Sports, 774-762-6234. If you'd like to jump in on the conversation, what do you think about the Celtics? Who are they really? Are they a team that could win the whole damn thing? Or the way the thing's coming together? It's such a difference from before. And, you talk about Coach Udoka. I think he deserves a ton of credit. Absolutely. But, you point to January, right? And I still get back to this, and I don't know if this is something that I'm just overplaying, but if you remember the beginning of January, as that trade deadline approached, there was a big call to either get rid of Brown because Brown and Tatum couldn't play together. There were even some people that said, get rid of Tatum and keep Brown. And then there was a big chorus of people that said, hey, get rid of Marcus Smart at least. You know what I mean? If you're not going to get rid of Brown and Tatum, because this group just can't get along. And I think the players were thinking, wow, one of us is going to be out of here. And where are we going to go? We could go to some last place team for a draft pick, or we could go to, who knows where we're going to end up. And then this whole thing that we've been working toward the last 3, 4, 5 years, going back to when we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago, this whole thing's all blown up. Maybe we ought to pull it together because I don't want my ass to be out the door, And so I think that things kind of, I think they started to look around and said, hey, who's going? And then right then they started playing great. Those last couple of weeks right before the trade deadline, it seems like things came together. Well, what about that? Could that have been an effect, or am I just kind of like, overdoing that analysis?
Well, obviously, when you're not winning and you got to point the finger somewhere. And so fans in media come out right away and you talk about your stars. And so internally, I don't know if that's true, Paul. I don't know if Udoka can say to Brad Stevens, hey, I think it's time to bust this up. I can't get Tatum, Brown, and Smart to work together. There were times there, if you remember, Smart called out a couple of players or went vice versa. And obviously it didn't look good. So who's to say that they didn't talk internally and say, guys, we can make this happen. You three starts with you. You're the defensive specialist. You're my offensive specialist. We're going to get players around you. We're going to work this. We're going to get this. We're going to do that. And we're going to get better. So, when you have media and fans jumping on the, on the gun trigger to say, let's blow this up. Obviously, a lot of people want someone to take the blame. I think they stay passive. I think they still stayed aggressive in what Udoka's plan was for this year and to finish their system and run it. And they're in the playoffs in the hunt for another NBA title. So, it went in favor of what the Celtics organization probably wanted compared to what the media and the fans thought.
All right, and a shout out to Lynn Marie Scrivano and Timothy Powell for looking in this morning. Thank you very much for supporting Santos on Sports. And let's look at tonight's game, Chris, because, it's a big game. You talk about home cooking. Yes, we're back on the parquet floor tonight of the TD Garden. And, you would think, wow, the way the Celtics can play and the way they know how to play, wouldn't it be great if they could take both of them? One game at a time, of course, one game at a time, that, but wouldn't it be great if they could take both? But, if Miami comes in here and just gets 1 out of 2, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for 1 out of 2. Get back to where, they have the home court. Yep. So don't let them back in the series. You look what happened in that last series where that game 5 collapse. Wow, I think back about it. Hey, hats off to the Celtics for coming back. Tatum had an unbelievable game 6 and game 7, and that was it. They were done. So to be able to bounce back from that really showed me something. But don't let these guys come back. I mean, you got a chance here to go win a couple at the Garden. You got to go win those 2 at the Garden and really, really get them by the jugular and, put your arm on the neck while you have them in a situation where they really had a terrible game in game 2. So I'd like you to talk about that. And secondly, what about the game itself? What do you expect tonight? Like, what's Miami going to do? In other words, is Jimmy Butler in Miami capable of coming in and responding to the game the other night and play like they did in game 1 at the Garden?
Well, if you're Boston, you have to play 4 quarters. You can't have a quarter get away from you as they did in game 1 in the third quarter. Even though without Smart and Horford, you still got to be able to put points on the board and you got to play better defense. And in that third quarter, physicality was really big. And Udoka brought that out more than anything. He says we were battled on the boards and we got beat to every loose ball. We got beat to every rebound. And they just out-physicality us. And that's something that Boston cannot have happen at home. And so both Williams, Horford, Tice have to play that style. And then if they can control, that's the word, control Jimmy Butler. Don't let him get out of hand, getting into 40s. Just kind of make sure you get a little rotation on him, always someone bumping him, someone on him, and really make him earn his points. I think they can be okay if they do that. They got some minor injuries, some sprained foot, some hamstrings. Some of them guys are a little slowed up like PJ Tucker and a couple more. But don't let Hero be a hero either and keep shooting threes. So defend the 3, keep an eye on him, especially if you get the lead. That's how they want to come back. So contain Butler the best that you can. And then obviously you want to defend the 3. But physicality down in the trenches is really big. And that's how they won game one. Of course, they want to steal a game in Boston, as you said, Paul. So they got to come up and they got to find something on the offensive end to get going there. Whether it's start inside, go outside, start outside, go inside, and continue to find a way like they did in game one in that third quarter to use their physicality, get inside, work hard, try to get some easy transition basketball. Sometimes the Celtics were caught sleeping, and they did throw some long outlets for some easy transition basketball. So that could happen as well. Celtics have to be aware of that. They're a pretty fast team. They can move. So I think the Celtics can handle them in both games, actually, because I think their bench does a better job than Miami's.
Shout out to Philip McDonald. Thank you very much for looking in today. Philip McDonald reminds us that over the past, I don't know how many years, maybe the past decade or so, the Celtics have been in half of all Eastern Conference finals, right? We didn't think of it that way, but that's a pretty good statistic right there, that if you're a green teamer, that's not bad, you know? I mean, it's not winning the whole thing, but it's not bad.
No, it's not. And what it tells you is it's an organization that believes in what they have from general manager to owner, all the way down to the last player on the team. They believe in this system. They believe in the organization. And it's one of the greatest organizations in the history of sports. They've been involved there a long time, as much as the Yankees get involved when it's baseball, as much as the Lakers were when they had it going too. Great teams. They find a way to get the job done. Yes, do you go through some rough patches? Absolutely. It's going to happen. It cycles. New England Patriots, same thing. Everything cycles. They took it, started off tough, got it going, found it up high, organization real well too. So you can look at all that, and the Boston Celtics are one of the elite organizations in basketball and in sports.
Well, we got a comment here from L Product 617. Okay, L Product 617. He says Boston in the building. So it sounds like he's from Boston. He says, let's go Celtics. He then says it's close, but no cigar. So I'm not sure about that second comment. But hey, L Product 617, keep those comments coming. And if you want to really take the leap, 774-762-6234. Let us know exactly where you are in New England here, if you're out in Boston, and what you think about the Boston Celtics. And, you know, you and I talked about that, you know, the 3-point, you talk about defend the three. The Celtics also have benefited from their ability to shoot the three. Like you look at Miami's bench or how deep they are. You know, the Celtics have a lot of players that can shoot the three, right? So I'm watching the highlights, and you're absolutely right. When they're moving the ball around, eventually somebody's going to be open. You can't defend like 3, 4, 5 players that can shoot the three. So it's like zing, zing, and the ball's going around. And then there were a couple of times, I remember there's some great passes like Marcus Smart. He's going like hard to the basket. And he's not the only one to do this, but they like to do this. They almost throw the ball like a pitcher. Like they go to they're going hard to the basket, and they turn around and they just give it like and the ball goes 100 miles an hour back to somebody who's standing behind the line, and there's nobody around them, right? So, you know, if you hit that shot, great. Now, what happens if you're ice cold from back there? We're always saying, well, you got to take it to the paint, got to take it to the rim, got to take it to the rack. But, you know, can you live and win a championship just by doing that, just by taking the open three and just, you know, hitting them? Can you win like that?
I believe you cannot do that.
Exactly.
I don't like when the Celtics continue to just shoot threes. I don't care for it, because you're going to have a day, as you said, ice cold, and then you could have some days when you are hot. Absolutely. I think the Celtics have to limit, Paul, how many they take. I don't want to go over 30 personally, maybe even lesser than that during the entire game, you know, unless they're really wide open. But I'm more of when you need it, sure, and you have some time to do it, great. But other than that, no, I still like getting it inside, moving it, slashing, backdoor cuts, pick and rolls, whatever you can find. I'm more of that. The three happens during that process when, as you said, Smart goes in hard, he gets doubles, sees Williams in the corner, but he also sees Tatum at the top of the key. Where's the defender? He's on Tatum, but starts to run to Williams, fires it over to Tatum the open three, and he makes the hit. Okay, that happens on that play. So on that particular one, it just was the double team that opened up that option. But there are times that he could just drop it inside this time, Lord, or a quick alley-oop this time, Lord, or Horford slashing down the middle inside in an easy layup. So there's a lot of ways to do it. Just don't get caught up shooting nothing but threes. I don't think that can win you a championship.
All right. I know you said that before. That's why I brought that up. And, in
Yep.
that game the other day, hey, 9 for 11
Yep.
in the first quarter, right? So, and actually they fell a little behind, the first, say, half of the first quarter. And then all of a sudden it was just, they were lighting it up like a Christmas tree from back. It's like boom, 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 boom. And the next thing you know, they got a 20-point lead, game over. So there are games where that will happen, right? There are games when that'll happen. So what do? Do you find out at the beginning of the game whether you're hot or cold, and then take it to the rack, or you just have it as part of your plan to sometimes take it to the rack and balance out your offense?
Well, it's game management, and you see how the game is producing at that particular time, and if you feel that you're hitting it and the averages are pretty good, and maybe one guy is having a hot hand, okay, you take a little bit more chances. Or you realize, we're not making it, and they think they can start warming up and start getting better. And then you kind of just adjust on the fly as the game's going on. And that's why the coaches coach. And you figure out, hey, Brown's got it going today. Let's get him. Doesn't matter if he's outside, if he's driving inside, if he's dropping a guy on the deck and he's making these great moves and the guy's falling backwards and he can take it. Tatum's hitting his step backs today. Hey, that's great. Williams is in that corner that he loves. Give it to him. He's hitting him today. Horford's got that quick little jumper going. It's a lot of processing going on, and it's all about game management during the game. And you just try to find what's working for you at that time offensively. And then obviously you want to defensively turn it around to get it moving back to offense as fast as possible.
It looks like we have some disagreement here from L Product 617.
Okay.
Out of the big city of Boston, if I'm reading that correctly. He says, yes, you can win that way because Golden State lives by the three-point shots and won a few championships doing that. So Boston can do that too.
Well, Golden State did, have their wins, and Curry, he can shoot it from anywhere. I don't care if it's 5 or 6 pointers. If they had it in the NBA, he would shoot it. Now, Curry's their main threat when it comes to that, and he does obviously a lot of their scoring. Now, if Tatum and Brown were just nothing but 3-point shooters, then I'd say okay. But I think also Brown and Tatum can really go to the hole a lot more than Steph Curry can. Now you have Thompson, who's kind of coming around. I wouldn't call Green a 3-point shooter, or some of the other guys on Golden State. So, yeah, Curry just happens to be the elite of the elite of the 3 points. Compared to Tatum and Brown, who can shoot it, but they can also do a lot of other things. Where Curry, I think it's a little tougher for him, and he likes to just shoot more than anything else. But he's right. You can. I just don't think it's the Celtics way, and I don't think that's how they do it.
Now hold your ground here. Hold your ground here.
Yeah. No. I mean, he can be right with the team that you have, and he's right with what Golden State has accomplished. I just don't see the Celtics as a team that just can shoot threes all day and be a winning team. I don't see it. I think they can do a lot other things than just do that.
All right, so L Product 617, keep those comments coming. We
Absolutely.
appreciate you looking in here on Santos on Sports. And if you really just want to reach over for that cell phone, 774-762-6234, we can have you and Chris, kind of debate this point. Can you win the championship by just shooting the three? I want to know the answer to that. And by the way, we do get a comment here from the great Windy City.
Yes.
Where Mark Sylvia says it's over. I said, this is Mark Sylvia.
I know.
I'm quoting Mark Sylvia.
Uh-oh.
I said the winner of the last series goes to the finals. This is a 5, at best, 6-game series. Not enough firepower on offense for Miami. And by the way, that is coming from Mr. Guarantee. So that makes me nervous. But no, he's very good at
he did say in that series against Milwaukee, whoever wins this series will go to the NBA championship, because he thought Milwaukee or Boston could beat Miami. That's what he guaranteed. And right now it's 1-1 heading back to Boston. So he thinks it can go 5 or 6 and the Celtics would win.
All right. So Mark Sylvia making that prediction right here. And so far that's coming true. And, I see this L Product 617 over here.
Yep.
L Product 617. And he says it's close, but no cigar. He's got a picture of a cigar. And then he's
Well,
got a picture.
he's thinking Red Auerbach right now. He's
Right,
thinking I
right.
want to win the big one and light the Red Auerbach cigar.
Oh, I got it. I wasn't sure if he was like, he was, in the
No,
business
no.
of cigars or,
Just remember when the Celtics always won, Red Auerbach was right there with the big one. So maybe he's thinking back to then when the Celtics were winning with Larry Bird and all them, and Red would come out with a cigar all the time.
right.
So
Well, I don't smoke, and I don't believe you smoke either. But the Celtics win the whole thing. Maybe we should just take a couple of puffs out of a big Cuban stogie there. You know what I mean? Just to celebrate.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, Paul. If the Celtics win the NBA championship, our next show after that, there will be a stogie right here for the Boston Celtics. I will guarantee you that.
Oh, Mr. Guarantee, that's great. Well, I got to tell you, if you do it, I have to do it too. I have to do it too. I have to tell my wife ahead of time because she'll be like, "Oh, I can't stand the smell of cigar smoke." I say, "Yeah, well, if the Celtics win the NBA championship, go shopping or something."
My wife tells me go for a long walk and just keep going cross country if you got a cigar in your hand.
Just keep going.
Just keep walking, she says.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much for your comments. Again, 774-762-6234. Give us a shout here on Santos on Sports. Hey, that last game, Jason Tatum, 27 points. Jaylen Brown, 24. Marcus Smart, 24. Grant Williams, 19. Wow, what a great, spreading it out, spreading the butter over the toast for the Celtics. And, I suppose that's what great team play will do for you, combined with defense winning championships.
24, 12, and 9. You have that in front of you for Marcus Smart?
Yes.
Get that from Marcus Smart every game. Let me tell you, the Celtics are going places. If I'm getting that with the defense that he plays, and he's giving you 24, 12, and 9, that's a ball game for Marcus Smart. And don't forget, he missed game 1. So I think he was really rested up and said, I'm ready to play. And he showed it on game 2.
Right. Okay. And Philip McDonald, thank you for looking in. He said something about our some issue with the phone. He was trying to call in.
Okay.
And let's see. I don't know why the phone is not working. Well, give us a shout.
Yeah, tell him to try again.
Try again, because I think I have this working right here at 774-762-6234. So give us a call. Try it again. Got to make sure I didn't have any technical issues over here. we do have technical issues every once in a while, but we try not to.
It happens.
So give us a shout, because we really enjoy it when folks call in over here at that number. So we want to make sure that we're still on over here at 774-762-6234. Okay.
Well, Paul, it's supposed to be in the 90s today in Boston. I don't know about 8:30 at night, but I remember in the old Boston Garden when Red would turn up the heat in the old locker room of the opposite team. I'd be interested if he turns up the heat a little bit in the TD Bank on the Miami Heat. Get them all worked up in that locker room before they step out on the court, like Red used to do at the old Boston Garden.
Oh, yeah, and it would be like 100 degrees outside anyway, because the game is played in June. And then on top of that, he'd turn the heat up in the locker room on purpose. That was kind of like, that's a funny thing that we laugh about. But, if that was done by somebody else to us, we'd be like, what is that? You can't do that. That's dirty and sneaky. And
it was, when you hear the stories afterwards and you hear how it comes out, and you imagine like being in that locker room saying, damn, it must be over 100 out there, because, boy, it's sweltering in here, not thinking that what was going on. But you find out afterwards, and sit back and go, that Red Auerbach, what a smart cookie kind of a deal. But, yeah, if it was the opposite, I'm sure we would be complaining about it. But it's supposed to be a good weekend. The weather's starting to change. That is nice. Gives us an opportunity to talk about our sponsors again. Get out to the Lakeville Athletic Club right here. Don't want to play indoors? 4 clay courts in the back, wide open, can play out there, can play some pickleball on the side as well at the Ted Williams camp. And They have a nice, big 24-round pool. You can go there and join the club. You can join just for the pool if you wanted to. So Lakeville Athletic Club, good place to go. Play some tennis, play some pickleball, even go swimming, bring the family down, make a day out of it, enjoy a lot of fun. If not, you want to get some air conditioning, go inside the Scotty's Pub, watch the NBA inside over there on Friday nights, Saturday nights, and check out the NBA and the NHL over at least 20 TVs inside Scotty's Pub.
All right, fantastic. You know, L Product 617 says he tried to call and he then made a comment saying, "What, did you forget to pay the phone bill, Santos?"
All right, Paul, what's going on here with that technical difficulties?
He screws it up again. All right, L Product 617. Give us a try right now. I want to see if this thing's working. Well, maybe we can have Chris call it. You want to? Can you call it?
774-762-6234.
Yeah, you call it and see if it goes.
All right, let's see if that works. Let me get my phone here. 774-7.
Oh, wait a minute. Forget it. We got a caller. I got a caller coming in.
All right, it works.
Let's go to Mark in Chicago. You were on Santos on Sports.
Well, you blew my cover.
That's what they do in the big time. They give the name in the town, so I figured I'd try that.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Is that Mr.
Saturday morning.
Is that
I'm surprised by this.
Oh yeah, well, you know, we're always moving around. We're always, you know, we're like the Celtics on a good night. You're not sure where the shot's coming from, you know.
Hey, just a couple things. So, is it possible in the era of the big three to refer to Tatum, Brown, and Smart as a big three?
Well, you know, and let's not forget when they had Garnett, Pierce, and Allen, and they considered them the big three. I think that's why it kind of is on a trend now for the Celtics to say, hey, we have a big three. Now, am I comparing Tatum, Brown, and Smart to Bird, McHale, and Parrish? Absolutely not. But if they want to call it the big three, and that's how the tradition wants to move on after when they went with Garnett, obviously Pierce and Allen, hey, I'm all for it, Mark. If they win championships, they can call them whatever they want. If the big three, if that makes them satisfied, that's okay with me.
Well, you know, Chris, we talked about this back in January, and you and I have gone back and forth many times on this. I've always been a Smart guy. Yep. And I'll tell you, Smart makes this whole thing work, in my opinion. Listen, Tatum's the superstar. Yep. Smart makes this thing go, in my opinion.
Well, what he does when his game is on, obviously it's the defensive turnovers that he can create, which then gives to the superstars to go to the basket. But when he's on the floor, and not offensively, but he will find, and if he's going to give you 12 rebounds and 9 assists like he did the other night, and find a way to help out offensively, never mind defending their top scorer or one of the big names on the other team, he just seems to make the team better because now it doesn't force Tatum and Brown to be that aggressive on defense as well, knowing that he is there to help out along the way. And then they know that he's going to get them the ball, and then they can execute a three or go to the basket or whatever it is. So right now, that general leadership, that floor leader, and it starts defensively for him. I have to agree with you there. He's turned it around. They've gelled with him. And if you remember at times at the beginning, Mark, they didn't like each other. And they were calling each other out. And they found a way to get it and become a team and work together. And Marcus has stepped up, and he's a big piece to this puzzle. So if you still want to call him the big three, I'm all for it.
Well, you know, the thing about Smart, right? I like him too. Everything you say is true. And you understand that he thinks all that's true too. You know, he's not very humble. He's very insufferable. You know, in fact, he even said the other day, he says, you know, I'm the guy that makes the thing go. You know, when I'm out on the court, my guys, you know, I get my guys going, and I, you know, when I'm on the bench, it doesn't work as good. But when I'm on the floor, I yell at this guy and I get that guy going, and I'm, you know, he's basically telling you that he's the straw that stirs the drink. And I'm like, all right, that's all great, but it would be a little bit better if you let somebody else say that, you know. But it's all true. Everything that you're saying is true.
Hey, listen, you know, every team, particularly championship teams, need that guy, that one player that's got an attitude and got a chip on his shoulder. And if it happens to be one of your your best players, even better. But hey, one quick comment, and then I'll get off the air and let you guys talk. But you guys are talking about 3-point shooting and coaching and all this and the depth on the team. And I got to tell you, we talked about this earlier. I mean, nobody knew about Udoka and what's he doing, in the locker room, and how did this team turn around? And, they're shooting the ball so well. You look at the bench. Neesmith, for example, was drafted because he was one of the best shooters. He can't hit the side of a barn, but he comes in the game. He blocks 3 shots, gets a couple steals. I mean, everybody's contributing. The chemistry on the team is amazing. And I got to tell you, I think Tatum, Brown, and Smart are going, hey, guys, 24 years old, 24 years old, 26 years old. We can be doing this a long time if we figure this out. So I think a lot of credit goes to the coach and a lot of credit goes to the players just figuring it out. So, listen, they're going to win in 5, maybe 6. The finals will be interesting because I got to tell you, neither Dallas nor Golden State play defense. So our offensive depth could help if we play defense like we do and we shut down some of those shooters. It's a wrap. And that's all I got for you today.
All right, Mr. Guarantee. Thank you
Mark,
very much.
Mark, let me ask you one question before you go.
I'll tell you one thing. We ain't going to go 2 games without giving up a punt. I'll tell you that, okay?
Mark, let me ask you this question before you go. Now, we've talked about this and we've texted me and you. Can the Celtics win a championship by being a 3-point shooting team alone?
Yeah, I figured you were going to ask me that, and I meant to respond to your Boston guy who I think is the guy having the phone troubles. But listen, Golden State won a championship shooting the threes. They also have the greatest 3-point shooter in the history of the league. I mean, I think I agree with you. 53's too much for me. 30, 35, I can live with.
Yep. I agree.
Thanks, anywhere on the court against anybody. Brown's athletic and can beat his man, and so can Smart. So it's not like we only have shooters. Right. We've got, and then you throw the ball into the Time Lord. So we've got balanced offense.
Correct.
I think sometimes we settle for the 3, and sometimes we get careless with the ball and turn it over. So can they win like that? I agree with what you said earlier, Chris. They can get hot, and they've been shooting it great. Yep. I'd like to see more balance.
Exactly.
All right, Mark from Chicago. Thank you very much for calling. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, guys. Take care. Great show as always.
Thank you very much. All right, you have an open line here now. It's 774-762-6234. I had a call coming in that I was trying to put on hold, and I almost knocked Mark off, and I think I knocked the other guy off. So we got a few things to work out over here. And also L Product 617. If you want to take a shot at us now, that would be a great time. So thank you very much for all your contributions today.
Well, and Paul, I'm going to go back to that big 3 talk. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot, not just the Celtics, a lot of these NBA teams are trying to prove. And they're trying to say, we want to get 3 superstars. And so Harden, obviously with Irvin, and then he came out with Durant. They tried for that big 3. As much as Harden, Embiid, trying to get one more piece. Anthony Davis with LeBron James, try to get Westbrook, another big 3. I don't know why this term has come about, but it happened with the Celtics. It happened with the Celtics when they had Garnett, Pierce, and Allen, and it's still forming. And other teams are trying to copy that concept. Have you noticed the same thing?
All right. I'm going to ask Ryan to hang on while we take this other call, and then we'll go right to Ryan. Hello, you are on Santos on Sports.
Good morning, gentlemen. Finally, 7 attempts.
Good. How are you?
The computer thing kept kicking in saying temporarily unavailable, temporarily unavailable.
Oh, boy.
Lucky number 7. Lucky number 7.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess it's like a reset, click, click. Hey, the other night during that game down in Miami, at halftime, I posted on Facebook, is this the Boston Globetrotters on South Beach, or am I just overly tired? Because they were doing things that were just so amazing.
Yep.
And I think on the days off, they looked at themselves and said, these guys over there had 4 days off. We didn't. We just came off a physical series. let's mix this up. Because if you look at the different styles, they didn't stay to one thing in each quarter. And when I used to play, I used to have a coach out in the summer league in Swansea, and he believed in that philosophy. Sometimes you just got to keep switching it up. That way you keep the guys on their heels.
Oh, absolutely. You just don't stay. And we talked about it, and the last caller said too, we talk about balance, and the Celtics want balance. They want to be able to shoot the three. They want to be able to go one-on-one with their man. They want to set pick and rolls. They want to go outside isolation, backdoor cuts, hitting Time Lord with that little alley-oop. They did a lot of different things. Smart driving in, then kicking it out for the three. I just think the balance is what makes this team a team, and they can beat anybody when they're on all cylinders and everybody's healthy and in the lineup. And we saw it because I thought that was a pretty good beatdown in game number 2.
I also think what's really important is, and everybody's pointing out because it's there, they've got to get, especially when they're going for that three, you've got to get 2 guys committed to the paint for those rebounds, for them offensive rebounds. That's where in the Milwaukee series, it made it rougher. They just weren't in that paint. They got to get in. They got to be in the paint on both ends of the ball. Don't just fly it up there and start hitting back as soon as it goes up.
Well, you have Horford, you got Williams, and you got Williams. When those 3 guys there, obviously, never mind Tatum and Brown and what they can do. Then you try to get Pritchard, and you get Smart, and they sneak in their way too, or they get some long rebounds as well. The object is not to bump into one another and make sure you box out your own man. And sometimes the Celtics, I know they want to have 5 guys crashing, and then sometimes when they do that, they get caught going in there, and then it leads to a fast break going the opposite way. So, yeah, maybe one guy staying back just a little bit to watch out for that long outbreak. And then at the same time, defensively, if Williams can give me 4 quarters, and I know he was hurt in the knee and everything and trying to get in that shape, but if he can give you a lot of minutes with his size, that guy should be just tearing up the boards.
Absolutely. And Paul, I'll catch you Monday night show. It's also going to be my birthday, so I'm bringing some friends.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, come on down. That's at the Whaler Inn and Suites. We always have a lot of fun. We'd really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a great morning.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go to Ryan and Mattapoisett. And Ryan, I got to ask you a question. Never mind the big 3. How about the big 4? Tatum, Brown, Smart, and Williams.
You love to see that. You're talking about Rob Williams, I'm assuming?
Yes.
He was absolutely fantastic in game 1. I coming off of that knee soreness, I didn't see that in him, but he was absolutely fantastic. It's sad that we screwed up that much in the third quarter and absolutely wasted that. I so wish we had taken that game. But great game. Great game 2, great win. But at the same time, I'm not getting too cocky here because we saw what happened last series. We have this great shooting game 2, and then we move on to game 3, and we just absolutely bricking everything. But so I look at this series and I'm like, okay, we got to take control here. We got to win the next 2 here and take control because I feel like we just can't take another back and forth series that's going to go game 7. Clearly Smart and Horford coming back was absolutely huge. You get 2 starters back there. But I still can't believe that third quarter. That might be the worst third quarter that I've seen watching the Celtics. I've been watching since 2018. So we definitely can't have another third quarter like that. And I just think we need to keep our foot on the gas and take control of the series here now that we're in Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. Game 1, that first half from Robert Williams was the best first half I seen him play all year. I know he was winded. He looked exhausted when he went to the bench, and he was tired as could be, but he had a tremendous first half in game 1. They need that out of him in game 3, a good fast start. Let Miami try to catch you, especially on the road. I know that's easier to do at home, and they did it. Start in the third quarter. And they used their physicality, Ryan. They showed up in that third quarter, and they took it to the Celtics. And I think the Celtics took that quarter lightly and said, hey, we got a lead on the road. They're a little spent. Maybe we got them where we want them. And they came out flat. And Tatum and Brown took, responsibility for it. But obviously you can't do that in playoffs. You can't have that kind of bad quarter. And then what happened in game 3, I think, with the Milwaukee series, we had a bad fourth quarter. We let Milwaukee come back. They took that game from us. Can't have that in game 3 or game 4 in this one. Got to take 2, be up 3-1, heading back to Miami.
Absolutely, you can't go back to 7 here. And like you referenced, the bad third quarter in Milwaukee.
Yes.
We're in Boston this time, so we can't have any slippage in any quarter. At least not to that kind of level. I wanted to mention too. How about Peyton Pritchard in Miami? Like usually when he's getting hot at home. Now he's getting hot on the road. Let's see how he does it in Boston. I can't wait to see.
Well, I'm a big fan of Peyton Pritchard for 2 reasons. Number one, I always like rooting for that underdog kind of guy. Number 2, I like rooting for guys who are around my size. That's why I was a big fan of Isaiah Thomas. I'm like, I used to tell my wife, I see that guy right there. He's the same height as me. Look at this guy. He's going around people and everything else. And of course, Peyton Pritchard isn't the kind of player that Isaiah was in terms of the things that he can do. But as far as hitting that 3, I love seeing him do it. In fact, Chris and I, right, we've talked about it before. Isn't it fun and just enjoyable watching how Pritchard plays? And, not only shooting the 3, how about when he goes in and grabs a rebound when there's a bunch of guys 6'8" standing around and the ball clangs around and out of nowhere, it happened in the last game, out of nowhere, here comes Pritchard right by 2 or 3 guys that are like 6'8", and Pritchard grabs the rebound just from sheer hustle.
Ryan, I almost think he takes it personally against Hero from the Miami team because they sit back and go, well, look what Hero does. And he's banging 3s and he's popping them. I think he gets on the court and says, oh, yeah, he can do it. Watch me. I'm going to do it too. I'm his size. I got that. I'm going to go out there and bang the 3 as well. So I think he might even take it a little personal.
Chris, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. I was during that game. I was actually texting my buddy. I'm like, yeah, we're going to need Peyton Pritchard to keep this to stay hot and to do exactly like you said, to kind of offset what Tyler Hero is doing because he's a pretty damn good bench player in his own right. One of my hopes for him with how he's gotten hot this year was like, hey, might not be as tall as him, but maybe he kind of becomes our Tyler Hero. And you're absolutely right. I'm still surprised for a guy as short as he is. That he gets in the paint, gets his nose in there, and gets those rebounds. It's ridiculous. I just can't wait to see how he develops.
I was laughing hysterically, and not only laughing hysterically, but like energized. I jumped out of the chair when I saw him come across from, I don't know, it came out of nowhere. The ball came out, and all of a sudden they're like, Pritchard with the rebound. I'm like, he had like, I don't know, 2 or 3 rebounds really coming out of nowhere. So, Chris, hustle, I mean, it's sheer hustle. That's a kind of, a guy like that has to make up for his inefficiencies. You certainly can never say that he doesn't give you 150% every time he's on that court.
Well, if it's Spock and Paul Santos and Ryan at home, what do you think it's doing to Tatum and Brown and Smart and those guys when he does what he does on the court? He's going to find them guys when he gets that rebound. They hit the 3 and they're just going to, smile and say, attaboy, you just keep doing what you're doing. So he's like an Energizer bunny. It's something that motivates the team and gets them going. So it's not just the fans, it's the players who are on the court at the time as well.
That doesn't get the team excited. I don't know what will.
Well, Ryan, we really appreciate the call. Don't be a stranger. We look forward to chatting with you again. And hopefully the Celtics can keep this bus rolling.
Absolutely. And mind if I say one more thing before I leave?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So I think a key to this is just keep attacking the paint. Like in the Milwaukee series, obviously we had to go through Giannis. We had to go through Brook Lopez. We had to keep running through trees in order to get to the paint. Yep. That's not to say that Miami isn't like a tough defensive team. Absolutely, probably one of the top in the league. But you're not going through trees in order to get to the paint this time. So I just feel like we're not going to have another great 3-point shooting night like we did in Game 2. So we just got to keep attacking the paint at home. I think that's the key here.
Yeah, and Udoka said physicality needs to be a lot better on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And if they get caught up in that, it's going to be difficult for them. They have to show, and the big guys have to come in and say, well, we're here. Look out. This is our home court. You're going to have to make some fouls and get over us to come away with that offensive rebound or defensive board. So, yeah, physicality is going to be huge in this series.
Okay, Ryan, thank you very much. Thank you very much for calling. Ryan. We appreciate it.
No problem. Talk to you guys later.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. If you want to get in, 774-762-6234. Thank you so much for our callers this morning and folks commenting on the comment line. We really appreciate that here on Santos on Sports. And, you talk about attacking the paint and attacking the rim and everything, right? The inside game actually creates the outside game too, in addition to, getting the points and getting the contact and getting to the foul line and making the foul shot. So, isn't it true that if you keep attacking the rim, you're going to end up with a lot more open shots as a bonus?
Well, you are. And sometimes, you can get some foul trouble, but when you got some depth on that bench to come in, you keep going at it and you can, you keep wearing that player down because they say, wow, that guy's out, but now this guy's in. And then the next thing, they try to do too much and then they run into an offensive foul or they do something on the defensive side of the board and then they mess up. And so the Celtics continue with that. If they can, I think they will be just fine. And remember who's leading and rebounding. So if Smart was your lead and rebound the last game, when you could think maybe Williams might be, who's much taller, whether Grant Williams, who's much more physical, whether Tatum or Brown, who's just as tall, and you're watching Smart do it, that's a bonus when you're getting those things because you're thinking it should be someone else on your team. And so that's nice to see the contribution and the balance and the depth of the Boston Celtics.
All right, and we'd like to thank Lucas Andre looking in on Fall River Reporter this morning on Santos on Sports. Got about 5 minutes left. If you want to jump in there, it's 774-762-6234. Talking mostly Celtics this morning. After we want to focus on the Celtics because obviously they're making a run here at a championship. But a couple of real quick observations about a couple of other teams. The Boston Bruins, a lot of people listen to that closing press conference, Cam Neely and Bob Sweeney and all that. And, they're getting criticized a lot. But, hey, don't forget, I heard somebody say, they can't even put together a Stanley Cup contender. I'm like, Stanley Cup contender? I mean, 2019, Game 7 of the finals, that's not a Stanley Cup contender. And then in January or February of 2020, best record in the league before COVID hit and messed everything up as far as, the momentum and so on and so forth. And the playoffs not the same and all that. And then, of course, now by the time they had a chance to regroup from that, they're all a little bit older. So the question is, blow it up or, just add to what we have? I got to say, I'm going with plan B, and we can do a whole show on this. When you say blow it up, what does that mean? I mean, obviously you got Charlie McAvoy there. He's fairly young. Pasternak is in his prime. Even Marchand's not that old. The only one that's really old on that team is Bergeron. So obviously you'd have to replace a first ballot Hall of Famer. But as far as blowing the whole thing up, I don't know. That seems to be a little radical to me.
Well, what's radical to me is Cam Neely saying changes need to be made and will be made, and not of Don Sweeney, but of Butch Cassidy.
Right.
And I think his job could be on the line right now. So I thought that was very interesting because, I don't know, maybe the players came forward and said, we don't like the way he calls us out or we don't like the way he coaches. I'm not sure. But to hear Cam Neely say that, that made me scratch my head because I thought Cassidy, I still think Cassidy's a good coach. And to see that he may go and changes need to be made, I was like, oh boy, that's quite interesting from Cam Neely saying that the other day.
And he actually contradicted himself because he said exactly what you said. But then on top of that, he also said, well, this guy's been a great coach for our organization, so he likes him and thinks he's a great coach. So maybe it's coming from, I don't know, the players have tuned him out. I mean, they only have so much of a shelf life, with these coaches. So I don't know if that's coming from somewhere else. But I agree with you. I think Cassidy has been a terrific coach. If you look at his record. Yeah. And again, you can't get to the finals. You can't win a cup. A lot of that has to do, not with Cassidy, it has to do with the fact the Bruins blew a lot of draft picks and that they really don't have the personnel to get you over the hump.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting in this offseason what the Bruins need to do. Personally, Paul, the way it looked at the end, I know he's the captain and the series ended and, you think you're captain and all that. But the way they look, I think this is it for Bergeron. Personally, I know Pasternak's overseas playing with Krejci. Don't know if he decides that, hey, he wants to make some kind of a comeback. That's a possibility too. But I think this is it for Bergeron. Just my opinion.
How about this? How about if we can get Bergeron to come back one more year, put him on a second line, sign free agent Malkin, put him on the first line. Get a couple guys, maybe Letang. You could say, I don't know if he's a free agent. Get a couple guys over here, wearing the right black and gold colors, and maybe just one last push.
Listen. Talking big three, we're talking Crosby, Malkin, Letang. That three ain't going anywhere, at least in their eyes. They say they want to stay together. They just had an article about it the other day. Malkin came out and said, me, Sid, and Chris want to stay together as long as possible as we can. Now, obviously, money talks, people walk. I know all that. Organizations, do all behind the scenes things. So anything can happen. But for them, I think they stay right where they are. But the Bruins will definitely need to make some changes. And for them, Paul, I think it's defensively. Lindholm, great. McAvoy, great. After that, I'd like to see something different. I don't know if those other 4 to 6 are what the Bruins want.
All right, and we're winding down here, but the next time as we proceed through the summer, of course, we're going to spend a little more time talking about the Red Sox. And I was thinking about a week ago, it's all over. They're 10, 12 games out. They can't possibly come back. It's over. You know what I mean? I know it's May and everything, but they've dug a hole so deep and they have so many flaws and they're batting like as a team, like under 200. And it's just, you could just see that they're a sinking ship. And then in the last week, Trevor Story, he has that, multiple home run game. And then it's a grand slam. I got some pretty good pitching performances, this and that, And then I'm like, all right, they're still way, way in a deep hole in the division. But you got 2 wild cards this year. And you start throwing in the wild card, they're only about 5, 6 games maybe out in the wild card, and it's only May. So maybe a little bit too early to pronounce the Red Sox dead and buried.
Well, 7-3 in their last 10. If you continue to go 7-3, 8-2, 6-4, and you keep that going during the weeks, you're going to get yourself right back up there quickly. And not much more of the hitting, because I think hitting is one of those, it starts in March, gets into April. It's cold. It's raw. You're playing in New York. You're Baltimore. You're playing in places where it's cold. It's tough to get going until the season, really starts to hit and the weather changes and all that. I think it comes down to more of pitching for the Boston Red Sox. Can Pivetta provide games like he did the other night? Can they continue with Whitlock and some of them other young guys to say we can make a run now and start winning in 10 games, a 7-3 or 8-2 kind of series? If they can do that, then I think they'll be fine. But pitching to me is the key for the Boston Red Sox.
Thanks again to our viewers and our callers and those making comments. We really appreciate your support. And we'd like to say thank you also to our sponsors, Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where they provide tennis, pickleball, and more. We have Citywide Glass with 3 locations, one at 425 State Road in Dartmouth. They also have additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. And Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street, Fall River. Thanks to those guys for supporting Santos on Sports.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
All right, for Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos. Go Celtics. Let's put that banner, number 18, up there, baby.
Next time we're on, Paul, this series might be over. They play Saturday, they play Monday, and then back, obviously, after that, back in Miami, either Wednesday or Thursday. So let's hope that the Celtics will be finished by the next time that we come on.
Hopefully over in the right direction. All right, thanks. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.